streaming, not recording. It takes a few seconds. Okay. Now I will send you the link. Probably people will already start to join, but as soon as the link is shared everywhere, we will start talking. By the way, I've seen you drinking. Yeah.
What were you asking?
I've seen you drinking something. What do you drink? Tea?
It's a tea. Yeah, we like.
I'm going to drink some Czech tea.
Okay.
I've tried a lot of Czech beers, to be honest, but this one is my favorite.
Which one?
Staropramen.
Staropramen, I see.
Yeah. 1 second and you'll have the link and everybody will have it.
The one we like is Pilsner. Maybe you know also that one. It's Czech beer.
Pilsner Urkel or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it.
That one.
It's good as well. I've also tried Budvar. Wait a second.
Okay, I killed the sound.
Have you prepared any masks around you? I have a lot of masks. On this side are the Czechoslovakian masks. On the other side are the Romanian ones.
I see. No, I don't have any masks actually. I was just counting on you, and I'm gonna provide commentaries and information when it comes to them.
Perfect.
Or gas mask. People can donate right through YouTube.
To do what?
If they can, if you can crowdfund.
Yeah, basically people can donate to my YouTube channel, but my monetization is off because I couldn't fully use it after I receive around $10 amount via YouTube views and so on. I had to receive a key through postage, like a letter, but I never received it and I tried many times.
Oh, I see. All right, so shall we start?
One second. The biggest thing that I hate about live streaming, it's when you I don't know how people do it. When you start streaming and you want to share the link, it's a big pause at the beginning.
Well, finally, I'm able to share links on Instagram because that function was unavailable to me. But now it's so much simpler, even for Patreon. People are more willing to get into it if they can just one click. Don't have to find everything.
Before that, I don't know how you could use it. I know you had to do a lot of followers or something like that.
You know, link in bio, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. So hello everybody that's watching us right now. Let me see how many viewers do we have. I have to see these 3 people are already watching. No, one this time, but they will start flowing. So today I'm going to discuss with Andrei, my friend from Slovakia, CBRN First Responder. We are going to discuss about the evolution of both Romanian and Czechoslovakian gas masks, starting with Cold War to the present day. I'll show you the masks, especially those from Czechoslovakia, and Andrei will give us more details, more insights about them, and I will come with let's say counter arguments from the Romanian side. So Andrei, a thing that I was thinking just before starting, it was that you cannot start talking about Cold War gas masks without talking a little bit about World War II gas masks, because a lot of them, like for example the Romanian MD35, was still used in the 50s. A lot of people still find them in bunkers from the 50s. And what I wanted to ask you is what was using Czechoslovakia during World War II and very little after?
Well, this is a good question because I don't know much about it. The World War II was never my big hobby.
Same,
I
same.
know. Yeah, exactly. I don't even know why so many people are turned on by it. But I know in general what happened. I know what kind of technology used one side or another. But when it comes to gas masks and Czechoslovakia back then, first of all, Czechoslovakia was divided because of Hitler back then. So we were so we were Slovakia and Czech Republic
Yeah.
back then. And as far as I remember, from what I read, is that we were using a gas mask called Zoe, like Type 38.
Mm-hmm.
But I never had it in my hands because these are kind of expensive nowadays, or not, depends on where you're going to find it. But the situation was very similar to situation nowadays when it comes to availability. Even though these were 30s, there wasn't a state wasn't providing these protective equipment to their citizens. So either you had money in order to get it,
Yeah.
or you didn't. Because people, from example, the generation which was raised during socialism, they adapted to an environment where state basically took care of them in every possible way. They were making big orders for gas masks. We're gonna get into it soon. So yeah, basically the situation before, during, and during World War, when it comes to gas mask, the situation was that if you had enough money, you could get it. If not, well, bad luck.
That's quite weird, to be honest, because that sounds a lot like how it's working nowadays. If you need a gas mask for civil defense or just personal purposes, you buy it. The state is not going to provide it to you. But in Romania was totally different in the 30s, and it was like in the after war period of time, because the state gave the, I mean, didn't no, the state provided the population with gas masks. Like there were not like atomic bunkers. There were just, shelters under houses and so on, under
Mhm.
factories, which were stacked with civilian gas masks, the famous Romanian MD35 mostly. And I find it very weird. I thought there was the same scenario in the entire Europe, like the state provided the gas mask. You didn't have to buy it yourself. For example, here, if you find a MD35 in good condition, usually it has. I mean, usually I find it many times with the signature of the person that received it, because you got your gas mask in the bunker under your like city block, and you had to sign that you received it, that you have it. Something
See,
like in the socialist times.
yeah, yeah, far more like it. But for us, and even for me, to better understand the situation back then in Romania, can you give us some background about the political situation back then? Because I know nothing about it.
Uh, well, Romania was not that different from other countries in the 30s and 40s. After World War One, we were on the victory side, let's say. Although
Yeah.
we didn't have the nicest game, let's say. I mean, switching sides, it's a tradition for us. And
Mhm.
after that, I mean, starting from the late 19th century till the end of World War II, Romania was a monarchy, and it was quite democratic, I might say, quite capitalistic, until some point in the late 30s when our king, Carol II, started being totalitarian, and things changed. But as I told you, this civilian defense thing was um, made in Romania in the mid 20s, late 20s, and after that they started we started producing our own gas masks before, and our own equipment. Before that, as I've seen from some pictures, because there are not that many, we were using German gas masks apparently. Although we didn't fight alongside them, we fought against them.
Yes, I understand. When it comes to this, for us, prehistoric period of CBRN and gas mask, that was the same story in here after the Great War ended. That countries like ours, they received, let's say, kind of like a victory package, these obsolete things. They were, if I'm right, we were using also French and British gas
Same,
masks
we
back
used
then. Yeah,
French as well.
even though I don't even know their name. The thing is, when it comes to Slovak state, the in the times of World War II, there are crazy collectors around who are willing to pay ungodly sums of money for
Yeah,
anything. For
yeah.
anything. And when it comes to CBRN or NBC, some detection devices I've seen in pictures, they have like you can't calculate the price.
I understand. Yeah, same happens here. Like the mask that I told you about, the MD35 is quite common, but it's still expensive because usually old people have the same argument. It's from World War II, bro. It's gotta be expensive. And besides that, other masks used in Romania during the war and previously are extremely rare, and and people are for me as a collector, I hate it because they raise the prices a lot, like hundreds of euros, and I'm not willing to pay that much. A little thing that I want to say, you're not going to like it, but your camera doesn't work again. I don't know why, or something is
Well,
wrong.
that's just wonderful. I'll just try to reboot it.
Yeah, so it drives me crazy. I don't usually collect World War II gas masks. I don't really like them, but since I have a lot and most of the gas masks from the Cold War, as I like to believe, I'm starting to get there, and they are quite expensive. They are quite expensive. Funny enough, because you are from Slovakia,
Can I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
no problem.
The video doesn't seem to be working. Yeah, or is it? Oh,
Yours?
yeah.
No, it's not
Oh,
working.
something is coming up or not. Should I call you from my laptop? Maybe
I
that's
think
gonna
that
be.
would be better for us.
All right. So just 1 minute.
No problem, no problem. I'll wait you right here. There's only one people. There's only one person watching us right now. I wonder who is the person that it's still watching us. My channel is literally dead. If people that are still watching us have any question for me or Andrei, just type down in the comments, and we will do our best to respond. Gordon Cordon, I don't think you're watching this anymore. Yes, Staropramen, it's the best beer. Andrei, I see that you called me, but it seems like, if you hear me, obviously, it seems like your camera is off. That would be our second problem, but the microphone as well, it's muted. Maybe this is from me. Did I mute you? But I don't believe so. I hate Discord so much sometimes. Oh, I don't think I muted you or something like that. Oh, okay, one moment. I wonder if it's. I wonder if this time my microphone sounds better. I think that I don't. Oh, okay. I think that I don't really understand about like people that join a live stream. Like they join in the first. Oh,
Right?
you are back.
Yes, I am.
I can hear you now. I see that your camera is loading, but maybe that will be fixed by the time. I don't know.
Can you see me now? Because the camera is working on my part.
No, I don't know why. I don't understand. We didn't have this problem last time. Hello, Protivo Gazer. Should I call you again to remake?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll call
Just
you.
a bit.
Okay, okay, finally. Let's hope we won't have any problems.
Okay, so now let's just get straight forward to the gas mask. People came for them, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Our podcast. So when it comes to the gas mask, you mentioned before the old one. You don't have it, right?
No, unfortunately not, because as I told you, I didn't pay too much interest to World War II. I'm going to have it at some point.
Yeah, sure. So basically, what we are talking is that we would like to know more about these masks, but we don't have money for them, so we're gonna skip this, I guess. So we'll just go straight forward to another period, the 50s.
Yeah.
Because from this point, we can talk more about specific masks, and actually you've got them.
Yeah.
So can you bring CO1?
Yes. Here we have the CO1. It's in mint condition, like.
Oh, it is indeed.
And also
So
with
this,
the filter.
So this gas mask was issued to civil defense workers, and well, it was produced for civil population in the 50s. The problem with this mask is very specific. When you outscrew the filter, I think the inhale valve is actually inside the filter.
Yes, this is very interesting and very World War II and pre-World War II technology. After that, I don't think it was used by any country very much in a larger scale.
Yeah, actually, I understand what they meant by putting it in the filter, but this solution created another 10 problems, so this mask is kind of unusable. Well, speaking of usability of this mask, even in the 50s, when made, this mask had a massive problem with chemical agents coming through.
Okay.
Because it didn't seal well enough, so this was discarded pretty much after a few years, and they put into production a new type of gas mask which was used during the 60s called CM3, and you've got that one too, I guess.
Yes. One thing that I want to mention, and I want to start our little comparison before going to the CM3. It's like as you can see, this one used head harness, wasn't a helmet style gas mask. yet. In Romania, the equivalent of this one, let me put it down. By the way, the filter I see it's made in 1952. I'm not sure about the mask itself. I think I've seen at some point the year somewhere, but I cannot remember right now. But still, for its age, it looks amazing, just amazing. The Romanian equivalent of this one, oh, I forgot to pick it up. It's the only one that I forgot to pick up.
Okay, I'm interested. Show me.
Yeah, I'm back. The Romanian equivalent would be the MC56. It's basically a copy of the Soviet MP4, GP4. Sorry, not MP4. It's quite interesting because there's not much known about this gas mask in Romania. There's like, as you said about the filter, that it has that valve there, you know, the rubber valve. For example, about this gas mask, I've seen it in the civil defense books from the 60s, but there's like nothing about it. It's just gas mask for civilian population. No instructions how to use it, and that's it. And compared to the Soviet one, it was made of harder rubber. Like if it is in good shape and the normal shape, it's okay. But if it is bent and stood like that for a long time, you are going to repair it very, very hard. They are quite common, and usually they would come with, compared to the CO1, these ones would come with coffee can style filters, you know, the big one, bulky ones.
Yeah.
And they are not very good for a seal or putting it on head. It's horrible to use this.
So it has a six, the harness system, it has six straps.
2, 4, 6, yeah, 6-point head harness. It's a bit better than the Soviet one, I gotta say, but it's still a horrible one.
But do you know, when it comes to shape of the face piece of different masks, when it comes to how to properly store them, even in the 80s, when we just move forward in time and talk about gas masks from the 80s, there were specific rules how to store them, how much space they need to have, how much humidity is allowed. So gas masks in general, their quality and the lifetime of their protection depends on how well you store them. I love people who have some very gas masks which are kind of rare or expensive, and they just have it on a wall somewhere, or just a light is shining on them all day. So the light is the most dangerous thing for this kind of rubber.
Yeah, sunlight. That's why this room that's why in this room I never have sunlight. I have only one window up there, but it's always like I have something in front of it, so there is no way that sunlight will come into my room. It would ruin a lot of pieces.
Yeah. So the mask Romania was using in the 50s was basically a copy of the Soviet one?
Yeah, 1:1 scale copy of the Soviet one with very little changes. And sometimes a thing that I discovered about it's I've seen them at flea markets or sold by people on internet. Some of them have the valve assembly turned around. I don't know why. I think it's a factory issue, or they just didn't give a fuck how they assemble them, because it doesn't look like somebody worked on them after they were made in the factory, like somebody switching the position of the valve chamber intentionally. I don't know why. Uh, the valve it's identical, but they are switched up. I don't know why.
That's the beauty of a production back then. When it comes to Soviet times in Czechoslovakia, there were, for example, our paratroopers were using one kind of knife. It was called Uton. It's a shitty knife made of the shittiest steel. But nowadays it goes for at least 300 euros a piece.
Wow.
Real number it has on it. You know, after the year 1989, nobody wanted these knives even for 20 Slovak korons, which was like 3 euros or something.
Wow, that's quite cheap. What I got to say? Sorry.
Yeah, I'll just finish the idea that these knives were made in series, and some series have very strange faults, or they're. For example, when a machine was pressing the number on one specific series called 0005, this machine kind of broke or something went wrong. So this symbol isn't pressed enough.
Oh,
So they had to use acid afterwards in order to make it look, because it was invisible basically. And I've had these kind of knives with absolutely different writing because someone made a mistake, and a batch of knives was made with a different naming, and now people are just hunting for them because they think they're
special.
They're special, but someone just made a mistake. He came to work.
Yeah, exactly. that usually applies for all of the collectibles in the world. Like if you collect, I don't know, let me think, coins, for example, and they are made in mass production. But if you find one with a missing letter or something like that, its value just increases a lot, just because of a mistake. It's an interesting fact that's what people actually value: mistakes.
Yeah, imperfections.
Yeah, exactly, imperfections. A thing that I want to say, closing the CO1 and MC56 topic, is that the CO1 compared to the MC56, with its problems, it's of much higher quality. The rubber, the metal used, the paint on it. The MC56 looks like, I don't know, forged with a hammer and sickle.
Yeah. Well, it might look good, but it's potentially dangerous because the gases can get through the exhale valve, which was imperfect so much that they had to create a new. Because when you think of the Soviet or Czechoslovak M52, this helmet-style gas mask,
Yes.
they were 3 editions of it, just because of the same problem, that the seal wasn't good enough when it comes to exhale valve, so they had to upgrade it 2 additional times. But in this case, they had to make a new mask altogether because it was so beyond repair. When it comes to CO1, there is one information you maybe don't know about. In the 80s, this mask, CO1, discarded in the 60s. Okay? In the 80s, they took them and they made some slight changes, so they would have the inhale valve in the facepiece instead of the filter, so they could use regular filters just like CM3, CM4. But also it didn't catch up. A few were made like this, and very few people know about it.
Interesting. I didn't know about that. I think it's the first time I hear about it, but quite interesting that they didn't destroy them or something like that, because they are quite common as far as I know. I mean,
it speaks of the economical situation in Czechoslovakia back then, because when I I do not collect per se militaria, but I enjoy some stuff. I like Soviet or socialist devices, equipment, because they were made for one reason: to endure and to work, which is
and to
in
be
contrast with.
to be made cheaply. One more thing that I want to present you, because we are talking about the 50s, and I remember right now, and it's actually a very good connection between Romania and Czechoslovakia. Wait a second. And also Nazi Germany. This piece right here, as far as I know, it's called OPT, OPT, which quite
That's the one.
yeah, which quite funny in Romanian means 8, but doesn't make any sense anyway. As far as I discovered from my Czech friends, these are quite plenty in Romania. Not with the hose. The hose it's much rarer. But the face piece, I think I've seen at least 10 of them being found in civil defense bunkers. Most of them with a big inscription here, but in German. So apparently the story of these masks, their production started in late 30s. After the war started and Czechoslovakia broke and was captured, these masks were made for Nazi Germany, those with the German inscriptions, obviously. And after the war, a lot of them were sent back to the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, sorry. And I think in the 60s or 70s, this one, for example, a friend from the Czech Republic explained me, it has here a stamp that means the mask is made in 1945, 10 of April 1945. But in 1951, it was reissued to the Czechoslovakian army. And I believe in the 60s or 70s, it was exported to Romania.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's surplus for surplus for surplus. Like we bought it third or second hand from you.
Yeah, but this one actually looks pretty much the face piece, you know, like the one that were used during the 30s and 40s. So it was basically the same stuff.
Yeah, it uses quite the design of the time. A lot of Czech gas mask from the Czechoslovakian gas mask from the 30s used this type of design. This one is just a rebreather. It doesn't take normal filters or anything like that. It would have been issued with a big metal backpack. I found only a part of it, but I left it there. The rest of the kit is quite uncommon. And funny enough, a military surplus store here in Romania has it displayed in their shop in a very big wooden box. The instructions are in Romanian though, but they are not selling it. It's just for display. My Czech friend, when came to Romania, was really eager to buy it, and they just didn't sell it. Why? Why would you do that?
I see.
So yeah. That's a nice connection between our countries.
There is nothing worse than a collector which values things through emotions and not money, because you can't reason with that guy.
Yeah. I mean, that and funny enough, this military shop has two stores in my city, you know, and we've been to the first one. My Czech friend got mad, and I told him there's a second shop, maybe they sell it there. We went there in the other part of the city. They didn't have the same mask, but they had another mask that I will show you here, because it's part of the Romanian area, let's say. And guess what? That one was for display as well.
I see.
he told them some nice Czech words, and we just left. I recognized nice. Kurva.
So, yeah, speaking of material used in this mask, what is the face piece made of? Because it's not a rubber.
This one that I showed you.
Yeah,
It's actually rubber, but rubber coated in canvas, like the
I
exterior
see.
part of the mask, and on the inside, on the peripheral seal, it's used, I believe, natural leather.
I see. What actually amuses me, I know that back then wasn't technology, enough to make rubber face pieces, so they use as canvas and stuff and leather. But when it comes to, for example, mustard gas, it's very penetrating and it gets into everything, like deep into material, which can secondary contaminate anything, for example, wood, for example, wool, anything. So it eats into the material, so it's practically impossible to decontaminate it. So back then they had to have a lot of fun. And for what were these masks made primarily? Well, it was mustard.
Yeah, yeah. Hungary still Hungary still used this technology in the 70s for some reason. So yeah. Let's go further. After the CO1, what was next?
Well, just as I said, the problem was that the inhale valve wasn't safe enough, and safe enough meant that state ordered from a company making these gas masks, Gumarni Zubji. They are still producing
Guzu.
gas masks. Yeah, Guzu, and carpets for cars, something like that. So they ordered. Okay, we are talking about the socialism in Czechoslovakia 60s. Yeah.
Yes.
So the state ordered the biggest, how is it called? Order of gas masks in the history of ours. So CM3 was the most massively produced gas mask. So you can show us
This one
what
right
we're
here.
talking about.
Quite a
Yes.
common gas mask. But I got to say, I got to ask you, who were the first to do it? The Czechs or the Polish?
Well, I don't know. I would lie, but when it comes to who came first with stuff, I don't think Polish were the guys.
I'll have to research that because I've got both of them, and
It's the same. I've seen also the M10. Our Czechoslovak M10 was
yes,
also made in some Polish form.
they quite they had let's say 3 variants of it, so they quite liked the
Really?
design. But what I got to say about the I always confuse them. It's CM3, right?
Yes.
Okay. About the Czech one, the Czechoslovakian one, it's the material used here. It's bakelite, right?
Yes, it is.
I love it.
Just like everything from that era.
I just loved I loved this material, the color of it. The Polish one, for example, because I have it also. I don't want to bash the Polish or anything like that. I like them as much as I like other fellow countrymen. But they just used plastic, normal plastic. This one seems like you can hit it with a hammer. I know it wouldn't stand a hammer, but it seems like very rigid, very hard to destroy.
When it comes to bakelite, one thing I'm sure of, it isn't sturdy material. It breaks easily.
Apparently, my friend, the forest man that I've told you about, the guy from Hungary, confirmed that CM3, the Czech one, was the first one. The Polish were after that.
Oh, great. So, yeah. My chauvinism was right. Yes, the thing about this mask, in comparison to CO1, which had massive problem with the inhale valve, which was hidden in the filter for some reason. Well, the exhale valve on this one is doubled, just for sure.
Yep.
So if these rubber valves are in a good shape and the facepiece in a good shape, and you have a filter which is still working, this mask, even after 70 years can provide enough protection for a few hours.
This one that I'm showing you right now, it's made in 1962.
Yes.
It's made of the classic gray style rubber that if it stays in the sun or in bad conditions, it goes to hell. But this one, when I received it, was sealed, full of talcum powder, and it's in mint condition, like perfect condition, I gotta say. It has no issues, no corrosion on the metal parts. It is in great part. Even the stamps on it are completely intact. As I told you, it's made in 1962, and it's, let me try, maybe I can show it.
Is it your size? Yeah, let's talk about sizing. There are, because different masks have different sizes and different methods, or have to know the right size for your face.
This one, it's as far as 1962. I don't know if you can see it. It's
The
1960.
size is gonna be on the outer
Yes.
right side. Yeah.
Soviet style, I gotta say. Oh, 1962. I'm so dumb. It's here, the stamp. There was one on the inside as well. Yeah, here's the size. I believe this is a copy of the Soviet style, because they used to put, I mean, they still put their sizes like this on the masks.
Okay.
Yeah. They
what size it is?
5.
5, yeah. I've sent you also the faciometer, or how is it pronounced?
Yeah,
you
yes,
know?
the one to measure. I have it right here. I forgot about it, although it's displayed all of the time.
Because I don't remember exactly how many sizes CM3 had, and I guess it was 6.
Yeah, 6 sizes, which is huge. It's a lot.
Just a lot. So if you just think about it, 6 sizes means that this gas mask was made in so many sizes that it would fit most people. For example, this is the newest. When we skip, all the periods, this is current gas mask called CM6.
Yeah.
And this one comes in one universal shape. Okay, it's much more cost effective just to make it and stuff. But I've seen people with bigger heads, bigger faces. It looked astonishingly bad, and I highly doubt it would protect you from anything, because when it comes to shape of heads, okay, this would fit, let's say, 80-85% of population, but the rest of them, bad luck. They thought of that. That's why these masks have so many sizes.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think the Soviet masks, or any other gas mask, let's say from the Warsaw Pact, didn't have size 6. I do not reckon to see or to hear about any size 6 on this mask. I mean, it should have been huge. I think for example, I should wear something like this. And that
What size it is?
That size 4 for both of them.
That's absolutely regular size.
Yeah, but if you'd have to have size 6, quite huge in compression. I mean, I cannot even comprehend how big it would be.
For example, my head is gigantic because I'm wearing XXXL hats. It's very hard for me to find them, but this one depends on the size of your face, how long it is. So that's a different thing, as I learned, because I'm wearing absolutely normal sizes of any gas mask, but when it comes to heads, that's a different story.
I think that I want to mention about this gas mask, and I discovered it like last year. I don't have it right here because I didn't bought it yet. As we said, the Czechs were the first, the Polish were the second, but third were the Bulgarians. They copied it like perfectly like this one. I'm not sure if they used bakelite, as I told you, I don't own it yet, but it is like black plastic as well.
I
and
see.
maybe in the same time range as the CM3. I gotta mention this one. You know it?
DM1.
Yeah. The M1 means Detsi Maska, right? Or something like that?
Detska maska, it's a
Detska.
child's mask.
Yeah. The Bulgarians as well copied it, but they made it like bluish. It's a fascinating mask, if you ask me. Again,
I love child masks because they were trying to make them look less scary, which made them even more scary. I would love to have some of these rare, like Mickey Mouse Nazi gas masks. That would be awesome. It's just
yeah.
never gonna happen.
And again, like the CM3, this one was made in the 1970s and it looks pristine. Like I didn't have to repair anything for it. I just lubricate it with silicone, as I do with most of my masks, and it just looks like it was made yesterday.
I wanted to make some photo shoots, but find children dumb enough, to put this on. It's just hard. It's you can't negotiate with them. They won't have it on their head, and that's it. So these masks actually were made in 3 sizes from 4 sizes from 3 from 0 to 2. Yeah.
The child ones.
Yes, and CM4 has some very strange numbering because it starts from number 3 to 4 to 5.
Yeah, I've seen that on the meter. And
that's because of this DM1 is considered like lower, like smaller sizes, but basically they're different masks.
Okay, I've seen it on the meter that the CM4 is 345, and I thought, okay, probably they used 1, 2, 3 from the CM3, but apparently they came just in 3 sizes. That's
Yes.
quite interesting.
Yes, and just for people for people who watch this faciometer measured your face in order to evaluate the right size of CM3 and CM4.
Yes.
So this one was for 2 gas masks.
I believe there was a factory called Logarix or something like that.
Logarix, they are making these
plastic stuff.
Yes, stuff for measuring and rulers, different kinds of rulers.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. So what I'm wondering right now, that when does it come into the scheme of what we talk? When did the M50 was issued to the civilian population?
M50. Well, the history of that one. Do you have it?
Yes.
Somewhere. Let's show it to people so they know what we are talking about. Yeah, the classic Soviet one. Easily mistaken with GP5. GP5 didn't have a hose, right?
No.
So this one had. So this was Czechoslovak army gas masks from the 50s. It was the first gas mask type from that era, obviously from Soviet Russia. They upgraded the exhale valve exactly 2 times, so there were 3 variations of this mask. And the filter was connected to the face piece through the hose. And I wouldn't breathe through that filter because it was asbestos made back then.
Yeah, as most of them. We have to talk about that in another live stream, because at least in the collectors community, it's a very crazy myth about that asbestos. I have quite a different opinion about it, but that's for another podcast. Here I'm showing you because I was wondering when you were going to mention the M52, because in Romania during the same time we were using the MC56, they introduced the MD52 in Romanian, which is almost identical to the Czechoslovakian one, but as usual, different stamps, quite different rubber and different colors for the valve assembly, but the principle is the same. The way they work and the way they are made, it's the same. But for the Romanian one, it was issued to the military, but also to the civilians. The civil defense books of the time show it, and the civil defense bunkers are full of them, especially the 52, the first version. And and another thing that I wanted to ask you is that the Slovakian one, Czechoslovakian one, did it had any nickname?
Okay. One thing at a time. For example, I just grabbed this handbook of a civil defense 1966. And it's called Handbook for Basic, when it comes to basic, it's just my interpretation of, I ain't gonna translate it literally. So it's a handbook for basic norms and things you have to know, like knowledge of units, of CO unit, civil defense units. And when it comes to individual protection chapter, and gas masks. So this one is from 1966, yeah? So for units of civil defense and for civil population, we use gas masks M52 and CM3, DM1 for children, and CO1.
Oh, wow.
So all the things we showed so far are mentioned in this book as gas masks used in the 60s in the civil defense.
I believe there was the same case in Romania as well. They are not mentioned always together in books, but you always find them together, like in the same place. I think they just keep storing them, adding new models, and refurbishing older ones maybe. And I believe that's the same case here. And I asked you if it had any nickname in your country, because here in Romania,
I think elephant.
Yeah, exactly. It was the same in your country.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sure.
It's kind of light-minded because it has the long hose, and you can get some quite funny noises with it if it doesn't have the filter attached.
I see. When the mine PRVU, the for rocket guys.
Yeah.
When the rubber in the exhale valve it's older, when you breathe, it makes funny farting sounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And what about this one? When was it introduced?
Alrighty then. So this one was introduced in the same period of time, but the usage is different because I was translating on my Patreon last week a pamphlet of civil defense where there were information explained about what to do in case of emergency, what to pack in an emergency baggage, and what protective to use in different scenarios. Because, for example, when something happens in the nuclear plant, which is not far from here, for example, and radioactive dust gets in the air, gas masks, that's nothing for a protection, basically, because you need to protect your eyes, your airways from breathing these little pieces into it, and this simple piece of cloth does the job. So that's the purpose of it. In case of industrial accident where there is no gas involved, These things would be enough of protection. But when it comes to situation involving gas, you need the gas masks. The gas masks. That's why they're called that way. So you would need a CM3 from that period. That's basically it.
Okay.
Either you would use this in case of gas, or you would use this in case of some radioactive fallout or some bigger particles in the air.
But were this the OR1 they were called, right?
Yes, OR1, which means ochranné rúško, basically protective face piece.
Oh, okay. They were mass produced, like in factories?
I guess so, because there are a lot of...
They have stamps as well.
Yes, they do, and there are... How are they called?
The second one that you sent me was also...
There are warehouses actually full of this stuff during the pandemic, when people, in the first weeks in Slovakia, people were making their own face masks, which weren't really medical equipment, but something made at home. And people were afraid. So people from the cities, they opened these warehouses of civil defense, with this ancient stuff.
Did you see people on the streets with...
And they started giving people this.
Were there actually people using this on the street?
Actually, no, I never seen them. But for sure, there were a lot of people wearing this.
I ask you this because here in Romania, there were a few people that were photographed on the street using the M74. Yeah, for real. And the prices of gas masks here during the pandemic, actually this was a worldwide thing, increased a lot, like 300% or something like that. And people were selling it as COVID gas masks. Like, how can you do this, my dude? Like, you have no soul.
Yeah. Before that, I've never seen in a surplus store or in some marketplace on Facebook that someone would deliberately write in the description against viruses. Never before. Why would you?
Yeah, exactly.
For example, for how much you would find M10 during the pandemic or the first days after Putin mentioned usage of nuclear weapons? 200 euros, my friend. It's talking about some rare stuff.
Yeah. But another thing that I asked you about, coming back to our subject, why I asked you about the M52 is that compared to the CM3, we do not actually have an equivalent for that. Like until the 70s, mid 70s, we didn't have that many improvements. And I want you to ask you about the CM4 now. When was it introduced and why? Because it's very, very similar to the previous one. Without
and it isn't.
Yes and not.
So this was introduced in the 70s. What does it bring new to the table? First of all, the inhale and exhale valve, it's not made from bakelite anymore, as you can see. It's made from ceramic, or how is it called? Sklokeramika. I have to translate it in my head. Sklo, it's glass and ceramic. Glass, ceramic, something. Ceramic? It's much more durable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's much more durable. The same thing, actually, we are not covering army gas masks in detail, but the main technical difference between M10 and M10 modernized is that this chamber is just as well made of the same material as CM4. So they replaced the materials in CM3 and M10 in order to make modernized versions of them. So this is like a modernized version of CM3. So this is one big thing. The second one, obviously, voice diaphragm is available. So now when you talk in it, I maybe understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and that would make people a bit more comfortable because they can talk to each other.
Another thing, there is you can see the shape of lenses are different.
Yes.
So it's not like looking through the window in a submarine. So these are better for looking, and you see there are spare Do you have spare lenses on them?
You mean outside the lenses?
Yeah, there's spare lenses.
No, are they the same with those
Yes,
used
they are.
on M10?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just now I realized that I was looking to the M10 and I was like, wouldn't those fit on this one? No, I don't have for this one, but I can take from the M10, I believe. So that's interesting.
Actually, they do. And M10 always comes with spare ones. Because in army manuals for M10, you always have to put them in when you assemble the whole thing. Either for protection or when it's just freezing outside. It's helping, so you can see. But when it comes to CM4, there is never in the package, spare lenses, but you can use them interchangeably.
Another thing that I want to point out, and I think this is a very good thing and very advanced compared to other countries at that time, at least in Eastern Europe, is that, let me see if I can show this, is that
the harness is different from the CM3. It has a 6-point harness. This one has 5.
Yes, but very important, it has an oronasal cup, which is which is extremely helpful with fogging, with everything, with putting on your face. I mean, in my opinion, for me at least, the oronasal cup fixes the masks better on your face.
You know what's the most important function of it?
Which one would be that?
The thing is that when you breathe air into your lungs and then you logically, how is it called?
Exhale.
Exhale. When you don't have the oral nasal cap, there is a lot of air you exhale which is unbreathable, and it stays in your mask. It's called, in our language, it's called, give me a few seconds.
No problem.
Let's call it the dead area. Because when you exhale this air without oxygen into your face piece, which doesn't have oral nasal cap, you're breathing in once again air which has not enough oxygen. So this is the main function of it.
That's quite interesting.
Because otherwise you would suffocate in your own ever exhaling air which has no oxygen.
Probably not suffocating, but making your life worse and more miserable.
Oh, of course, because when the oxygen levels drop, everything changes.
Yeah, this one is made in the 80s, and again, as the previous ones, looks amazing, just mint condition. A friend of mine actually had one of these. I'm not sure if he bought it like that or it started looking like that during the time he owned it, but it was completely burned. I think this is the biggest disadvantage of these gas masks, CM3 and CM4, is that they use this type of rubber that against sunlight and humidity start having some problems, especially the coloring of the rubber, making them crispy.
But I don't think it's a faulty thing when it comes to material. The material is still, when people ask me what gas mask to get nowadays, with all the possibilities you have, I always tell them to get this one because you can get it for 10 euros, 15 at max, and you can still get the new filters. So that's good enough for me. I have one just as well in here, and that one was made in 91. So the production actually stopped somewhere in the beginning of the 90s.
A thing that I didn't ask you, especially about these ones, keeping the CO1. Do you have any idea what the thread is like? It's like obviously 40mm, but
Yes.
is it ghost?
It's ghost. It's ghost because logically we were making Soviet stuff or under their license, just as we do now stuff under Western licenses. It's the same thing. So this mask, just the CM3 and CO1, they have Soviet threads, ghost. So a lot of people. There is a lot of information on the internet, just opinions. Just like with asbestos filters, someone says there is not, I don't know, maybe, and you're confused already. Mm-hmm. That's the same thing with the threads in here. So these used ghost Soviet ones, and yes, you can feed in the new ones, the Stanag, but it's just your sensation because they don't really seal properly, because the neck is longer or shorter, so it doesn't really screw all the way into. That's the problem, because they are showing me that, look, I screwed it in. Yeah, you did, but it doesn't seal properly, which you can see because you don't know, and this conversation is over.
But yeah, one thing that I was, and I see you know things about the subject, I agree with you, it's not sealing 100%, and I believe that it's very applicable when it's when we are talking about toxic gases. But let's say in case of nuclear fallout, would it
good
be
enough?
It's not.
Yeah. Good enough, I think.
It's
that
good enough.
Good enough.
Even if you have a ghost threaded gas mask, but a NATO threaded filter.
Well, in this case, well, just to exaggerate, you wouldn't even need a filter. Face piece is good enough.
Yeah. And what is your opinion on the Czech filters? Would you use one of these? This one is, for example, from 1982. I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same.
What does it? What number it is? Because these filters, these green filters made for these gas masks, are called MOF, which means Mali ochranný filter, small filter, basically. Yeah. And they were made in series, and this one has a stamp called MOF 4. 4 was the series made in the 80s, and even if you would have the machine for controlling their kind of not warranty, but if they're able to protect you, they will still pass if stored properly, of course, unopened. But they will maybe provide a protection for, let's say, 2 to 3 hours, depending on the concentration of different chemicals. It's not so easy to say, But yeah, if stored properly, these are good.
Do you have any idea if they might contain asbestos or something like that?
They don't.
Really?
They don't.
You know what's my question? I mean, I'm quite neutral in this asbestos discussion in general. I go on the idea, if they're old, don't use them, but or it's your choice. But for example, for the GP5 filter, there were like laboratory tests done on it, and there were plenty of them. Some of them would say that they didn't have asbestos, others said that they had asbestos anyway. What's killing me in this discussion, okay, let's say somebody says it doesn't have asbestos, and somebody else says no, it's from the communist time, it has asbestos.
Prove it, because I can prove that it doesn't contain asbestos, but you can't prove that they do.
Can you tell me your your opinion why it doesn't have asbestos, because there's a lot of people that say this type of filter has asbestos because it's from the communist times.
No. That's not about good. That's a stupid generalization. The thing is that these filters are based on how is it called? Charcoal, active
Okay.
charcoal.
Okay.
Yeah. If you slice it open, if you make a cut through it, you'll see different layers, and most of it is just charcoal, nothing else. You would have to ask yourself now why some masks were made with asbestos and some didn't. For example, I'll show you something. Give me a second.
Yes.
For example, now I'm gonna show you a filter which includes asbestos for sure. And I'm just taking out my favorite ERVU. This is a Soviet mask, but it was also used in Czechoslovakia, and still it was used in Czech Republic because they have no replacement for these. And these bad boys are asbestos based. And you know why? Because people who were using these masks, these were specialists who were refueling rockets and stuff. They were working with highly flammable substances. And in case something would go wrong and fire would spread, filter, which is based on active charcoal, would start to burn from inside.
Yes.
That's something you don't want to happen. So these filters, when it comes to the lower part of the filter, they have a layer, at least this filter has a layer of asbestos paper. Just in case this was happen, this wouldn't start to burn immediately, at least. I don't even know if it would be hazardous to your health, because the layer is somewhere in here, not throughout the whole filter, especially not in the upper part. So even if it contains asbestos, I can't say if it's harmful or not.
Yeah.
Nobody can.
Quite hard to prove that.
And in most filters you wouldn't even see the layer, because the asbestos is not in a form of paper, it's in a form of small
Particles.
like threads, particles, exactly. So you would need laboratory to. So yeah, the thing I can say for sure, MOF filters, no matter what series, they were made series MOF, MOF 2, and MOF 4. There wasn't MOF 3 for some reason. And there are also 5 and 6, but these are from the 90s. These don't contain asbestos for sure. You can use them safely. When it comes to other health hazards, like when you use filters without cleaning them and there is mold growing on them, that's a different story. But these filters contain asbestos for a reason. They're not safe when it comes to. Why would you risk it? Why?
Yeah.
When I make some photos or videos with PRVU, I just connect this filter to the hose. It has the same thread. Done.
I think that I want to add to our discussion. While I'm talking to you, I'm also reading the comments. And I know some time ago I had a very, as I'm doing with you right now, I had a very deep discussion with my dude Forestman from Hungary, and he, just like you, read a lot of books and documents on the topic. And I would really like to see you to argue, because he's agreeing that these filters, like the Soviet one, had asbestos. But his arguments are, I mean, his ideas are there for another reason. And that would be interesting to see the both sides.
Well, there is no discussion when. Okay, we can discuss Soviet gas masks, and I'm gonna learn a lot of stuff because I know nothing about Soviet gas masks in detail and their filters. I just know what we were using in Czechoslovakia.
No, I
And
don't. Sorry.
yeah,
I didn't mean to
yeah,
say Soviet mask in general. The idea of the idea of usage of the asbestos in filters.
I see. Aha, the reason why
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
used.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Not on, because the Soviets weren't the only ones to use it. Like at some point, I think at least in the 40s and 50s, almost everybody was using it.
I see, but actually, that's a period of time I know very little about when it comes to gas masks. Just as we started, we were talking about an era which is unreachable to both of us, and we don't really care that much. So yeah, back then they were using it for some reason. Then they understood it's harmful, and why that happened, I have no idea. But when it comes to these filters from the 80s, for example, this PRVU is from year 80, 1980, and still using asbestos-based filters means that they had some reason, they were using them for some reason. And also when it comes to M52, that's also vintage army gas mask, these filters were asbestos made based too, and for the same reason, because for example when an enemy would use napalm during a chemical attack, these filters would start to blow.
My friend, what I remember from the conversation with him and from what he said right now is that, and I've heard this theory as well, the one that you told, and the one that he told me is that they used. I don't really understand how it works, because I don't know that much about the subject. That's why I talk with you or I talk with him. Is that asbestos was used for like the structure of the filter. I have to ask him how, because I don't really understand how it would work. You know, it's. I will say this, and let's go back to the evolution. I hate this hobby because I hate it in a funny way, because there are, like, nobody's documenting this in detail, like why that was used, for what, and that's it, the scientific proof. You have to dig it and dig it and dig it and dig it, and at some point it's just a blocked road, you know. Like
Yeah, but
I've never seen a book, and I have some of them here, but at least for Romanian civil defense and gas mask. What I've read so far, they never mention asbestos, like in anything related to filters and so on.
yeah, because back then, I don't even know when exactly people started to notice what it can actually do to your health, but I don't think it was that early.
No, I think I remember. Yeah, I was a child, so that is not that far far ago.
Because it was also used in construction,
I still have it on
basically.
my house.
Oh,
On,
yeah.
on some parts, the asbestos with cement, or how is it called? Anyway, let's go back. So we arrived at CM4. What I also like about this mask is that it has the name printed on the exhale valve cover. And at this point, Romania also had an equivalent. And another thing I just remember right now, Bulgarians again copied it. The CM4 copied it. The license was free for the communist countries, so they made the PG1, if you know the mask. Unfortunately, I do not own it, although it's a very common and cheap gas mask. I don't own it. It's funny because everybody says it's a copy of a German gas mask, but it's definitely the copy of the Czechoslovakian one. Anyway, we arrived to one of my most lovely gas masks. The Romanian in the 70s would have the M74, which, in my opinion, without any doubt, I think it's one of the best gas masks in the Warsaw Pact. It was this one was actually, it was made on a license bought from the West Germany, from the Germany's M65, which is still a great mask. But the rubber used for this gas mask, it's very flimsy, but it seals very, very well on your face. And it's quite an easy gas mask to use. The first versions of the head harness were quite horrible, because you'd have to put the gas mask on during peacetime, let's say, for example, adjust the head harness and just put it back in storage. You cannot done this quite fast. Like, they would broke quite easily.
That's the same story as with M10.
Yeah, rubber head harnesses with no fast adjusting straps are horrible.
I'm sorry, no, M10 had this, but you were unable to adjust it when you had the mask. The upper ones, you were unable to correct them with the mask on. You had to do it beforehand.
What I wanted to ask you, that, for example, the M74 was basically made to replace all of the masks that were used previously. Like, it was issued to the military, it was issued to civilians, it was issued to the industry, basically to everybody. It happened the same with the CM4.
No, not a scenario like this, that one gas to rule them all. Nothing like this happened in Czechoslovakia. So basically, just replaying what we told before. So there was CM4, CM3, and M52. One used in army and one in civil defense. Then the 70s came, and the army upgraded their masks from the M52 and models to M10, which is the copy of M17 with the cheek filters. So that was actually a big upgrade when you think of it. I don't really like the design, and for different practical reasons, but imagine switching from M52, which has a asbestos-based filter on a hose, to something like that. It's a big technological step, even though it was useless. And civil defense were using CM4 instead of CM3. So basically, army upgraded to M10, and civil defense upgraded to CM4. So we were using different masks for different professions, different levels. And you tell me, I have a question for you. Why do you think this one is better than CM4, or in your better in this mask?
As I told you, the rubber is very flimsy and very soft. If it stays in a wrong position, for example, in storage like this or something like that, if you put it on your face, it has no problem.
Yeah,
like no problem. And besides
this
that,
one.
the rubber that it was made of, I've seen them staying out in the sun for a very long time. They would have no problem. They are very resistant against against sun. What's their downside when it comes to sun? It's the glass. It's duplex glass with 2 layers of glass and a layer of I forgot the material between them. It's a very thin material of celluloid, which over time, if it stays in the sun, it turns red. You can still see through it, but with a sepia filter.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. That's
So talking about Instagram.
Yeah, that's the thing that I like the most about this gas mask. The rubber, it's amazing.
I see. Yeah, because CM4s and also M10s, they were made in this kind of grayish rubber, which changes colors pretty much into dark brown when if not stored properly.
Exactly. That's what I hate about the usually not Soviet but communist gas mask in general. The ones made in the Warsaw Pact. The usage of this type of gray rubber, it's so horrible. Like, if you find a rare mask made of this rubber, it's quite hard to repair it, especially the rubber.
No, it's done. If the rubber is damaged, the whole thing is done. It's just
I'm talking from the collection point of view, not from
I see.
the. For example, this one that I have here, I don't think you can see it on camera. I don't know what happened, but it has some very small cracks. No, you can't see it. From the collecting point of view, that's not a huge problem, but from a practical point of view, I don't think that's very safe. I mean, I think if you pull it very hard, it might break easily. So, yeah, it's I told you that it was used in industry. I'm not sure about that 100%. For civil defense and military, I know 100%, and they are still using it in the military. Like, they are the most widespread gas mask in the military, at least for exercises. But another thing that makes me think of the CM4, because I believe the field of view of the CM4 is bigger than the one on M74, but we have something better than that.
Okay.
It's this one. It looks like a scuba diving gas mask. It's a copy of a British gas mask, but the field of view is amazing and it's quite comfortable. This one was made.
Isn't this for miners or something?
Not sure if for miners, but I know 100% this was made for the industry, because it's easy to use. You have the big field of view. It has a very strange thing here. Wait a second. This is an industrial filter. I like the fact that it tells you how much can you use it depending on the chemicals in the air. For example, for phosgene, you know what's phosgene, right?
No.
Maybe
Yeah, phosgene gas.
yeah,
I see.
phosgene gas. If I don't know how you determine how you tell this, but it says if it's 10 milligrams per liter, you can use the filter for 20 minutes, and then it's gone. You have to go away from there. The shortest period of time, it's 15 minutes. 15 for sulfate dioxide, I believe it's in English or something like that. I don't know what substance is that, but apparently it's not that good, because you can use the filter only for 15 minutes if there's like 8 milligrams by liter. Anyway, here the intake.
In Czechoslovakia, the measuring gas, a chemical agent was chlorpicrine, because that one clogs filters pretty much well. So it was used in order to estimate how long can it, stay.
Yeah, how much can you use it? Interesting. Yeah, only on this one I've seen measurements like this, and in books they only tell you can use the filters for M74 and so on if there is at least 17% oxygen in the air, but nothing much about other chemicals. What I wanted to point out about this one is that you can unscrew the inhale valve, and you have another thread in here. I don't know what it is used for. It's a bit wider.
Okay.
Or no, it's not. It's a bit smaller. Sorry, wider, I believe so. And
never seen this. No,
yeah,
I don't really know.
The British gas mask that it is copied of, it doesn't have this feature. It's quite an interesting thing. Did you had any? I know it's going to come in the list, but did you have any like panoramic gas masks in the sorry, or did you use something similar in the 70s?
I see. I've seen. That's why I ask about possible mining usage, because in the museum I've sent you a video from these guys. They have this collection of various gas masks. This kind of design was used in mines. Yeah, and they had this, cleaning. How is it called? The shield which is cleaning the
windshield
lenses.
No.
Yeah.
Like on the cars, but you can rotate.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what?
Yeah.
we had that one too. You cannot really see it, but on the poster it's shown. You also exported that to Romania as a rebreather.
Oh, I see.
But for a moment I forgot about it. What would be next about after the CM4? Sorry.
Well, basically, what I will say about CM4 is that in comparison to CM3, there were two variations of this mask, two very rare variations which collectors are willing to kill other people for. And these are CM4M, which has the fluid intake system. Basically, that's a tube for drinking. Nothing special, but I've never seen it in my life. Only in that museum. And there is another one which has a connection for rebreathing devices. So it doesn't have a regular gas mask thread, but you can connect the hose from rebreathing system. So more like for firemen and stuff. And the last thing about CM4 is that it was manufactured up until early 90s. I have one of the newest ones. And after that, since socialism fell and everything went a different direction, there wasn't any state order anymore, so they had to figure out something else. And they came up with a commercial product called CM5, which we're gonna... Yes, here it is. I've never seen this one actually, and I don't even need to see it because it's basically CM4 in black with a slapped panoramic visor. And you have actually the D version, which has the thing in the middle of the visor.
Really? There's another version of it?
Yes, because actually, tell me, why would you put this kind of visor if you would slap something in between? You just don't...
I was asking the same thing myself. Why is this thing on the middle? What's the purpose of it?
It's for inserting additional
right.
viewing something.
Yeah. There are a few holes here for that.
There are actually, this is actually what I understood. This version is the latest one. It's called CM5D, if I'm correct, and it's for some kind of special forces or something. And this the thing in between is for inserting lenses or optical things, something. It's not practical at all. So the thing about this mask, which is very specific, is that it came with two different threads. Okay. You may find misleading information that it features universal thread. No, it doesn't. There is no such thing. It's either Ghost or Stanek. And this mask was made in both variations. So which one is yours?
Mine is RD40 by
yes,
1/7 inches.
1/7. Yeah, that's Stanek. So this one features the standard NATO thread.
Nice. That's very interesting. Mine, I've seen. I mean, I knew this, but I've seen it again. It's made in 2001, actually.
Okay, 2001.
No, it's not really visible.
01. So basically, you have a CM4, which with a visor and newer thread, so you can use newer filters in it. So yeah, it's more practical when it comes to real-time protection.
What I really appreciate about this one, yeah, the visor is quite cool. I gotta be honest. I mean, the field of view it's quite big. I find it extremely ugly. I don't know. I associated it with like a pig face or something like that. It makes you fat. That's how I see it. Anyway, but I liked the rubber on it. It feels a lot like the Romanian M74. it uses black rubber that is much more resistant to sunlight, and it has fast release straps, so you can don the mask extremely fast. I think this is like the peak performance of the CM family.
Oh, is it because basically it's the same? Like, actually, can you show me how many harness does it have? 5? No?
Yeah, five.
Yeah, and actually, this version, you have the identical harness from OM90 Czech Army gas mask.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it would have the same old from CM4.
Ah, okay.
So you see, this is so many things. So yeah, and I'm holding actually the latest fashion. This one is CM6, and as you can see, there are some design changes, but that's basically about it. It's huge, yeah, it's huge. Actually, I kind of like it, this mask.
Let me
Pretty
put mine as well.
practical. Oh yeah, can you hear me?
Wait a second, I cannot hear you.
Okay. Six seconds.
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, right. So now we are in our natural habitat.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, basically the main difference is that the voice diaphragm is bigger, far bigger.
Yeah.
And you have an option where do you want to screw the filter in, so it's not in front of you like in the previous versions, but you can swap the filter between the right and left side. I always have it here, so I'll just screw it in. Right. So yeah, here we go. Jesus, I feel like an idiot. Okay, here we go. So you can see the filter go side from one side, or it can be here, or you can have two filters.
Double port filter. Oh, let me get this out.
You're not used to it, man. Imagine during my trainings, people have these on their faces for a considerable period of time.
It's the I don't know how the CM6 is because I don't have it, but this one is quite comfortable. It's one of the most comfortable gas masks that I ever tried, and
this one is far more comfortable. But but with the price, depending on your shape of head, depending on the visor, where it has a nice field of view, but it gets scratched fast, really fast. You don't even know how you got the scratch there, but it's there, and you need to change the visor. And I'm going to make an instructional video on CBRN Academy how to do it. It's a lot of fun. It's very unintuitive, and I hate it. But
this one, that's how I got it. I mean, it's okay. I knew from the beginning. I wasn't scammed or something like that. You cannot really see it on the video because my camera is not that good. But it's, as you said, it's very scratched. Like,
oh yeah,
it is fixable, but with a lot of work.
I don't even know if it's replaceable. I guess it is because it should have this on the sides of the visor. It should be connected. There are two pieces which can be separated if you unscrew the screw.
You can replace it.
But the question I'm having, because I never tried it, if the visor is same from CM6, but I would guess so. The shape is the same. size and shape.
I feel like this one is a bit bigger, a bit wider.
Because you will not find spare parts for this if that's the case.
Ah,
You can get CM6 parts. That's why I was wondering. I'm gonna ask someone at the company, but they're not really active when it comes to selling gas masks in our climate. They're just selling everything to Mira or something. I don't even know how they're making it. I think Mira is making their own gas mask under their license. I don't know.
I think as far as I know, they just import them, and they
Yeah.
label it Mira. My friend Forestman told me that this is a very good how can I say it, business plan. Everybody's winning. Guzu is winning. Mira is winning. Mira is selling overpriced shit in the United States, and Guzu keeps selling to someone.
Yeah, they do not complain, and they have no reason to try sell this stuff in here and money into marketing, and it would be fruitless because people in here are not like Americans at all.
Yeah. What I want to tell you and then follow up with the question is that for Romania it kind of ended here. We had like wait a second. The latest, let's say, update. It is actually, I've seen some pictures of it used by the civilian defense, but not the one we know from the Cold War, the modern one. It's this one. That is still manufactured today. Actually, the M74 is still manufactured today by kind of the same factory. This would be the Rom Carbon P1250, I believe it's called. It's sold to everyone. It's basically the same story. They started making something with a bigger visor, and as you said, it's universal size. It doesn't have a size or sizing. I have the instructions manual for it, and they basically say it's universal size. And the thread for this in the manual, it's called standardized filter thread. Yeah.
So it's going to be the Stanag one, I guess.
Yeah,
for sure.
40 by 1/7 inches.
Yeah. But are you sure about the gas mask from the 70s of yours? It does really have the Stanag thread, because it comes as mind-blowing to me.
The M74?
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet. Like I used to believe so, but
I highly doubt. You have to find some manuals or some handbooks of civil defense of yours somewhere, because some data sheet.
Yeah, I have some theories. My first one is that it's a copy of a German gas mask, Western country, because it was from Western Germany, country from NATO, and probably when they bought the license, I don't know how these things work, but I believe they basically gave the blueprints to Romania and handle it, and I believe they gave the same, let's say blueprint for the filter port, right? Or this is one of my theory, because it's made of it's a copy of a Western gas mask that was using NATO threading. Second to that, there are no manuals to tell you or show you what's like nowadays on the Rom Carbon website. Basically, Rom Carbon is the equivalent of Guzu, but in Romania. They mentioned because they still make M74. They say that the filter port it's standardized. So it's either Ghost, and after 1989 they made it Stanag, standardized. Anyway, the only thing that I can prove that without a manual is to take. I do not know what's the name of that tool. It's to measure very small things, and you can open it wider and wider. And it's also electronic. It shows you the millimeters or something like that. I think that's the only way I can prove it. Buy one of those tools or borrow it and measure the thread. People always ask me, what's the threading on the M74/M85? I'm always like, not sure. Ghost Stanag, I'm not sure. And the same question with asbestos as well, but I usually tell them to just don't.
Maybe it would be the same story as with CM5, as I told you that there are two kinds of threats, but this happened in a shorter period of time. But this might be the same case, yeah. For example, I'm now where I'm getting my information from. There is a lot of handbooks, so socialist fetish on documents and having everything written down was for something. For example, when it comes to army gas masks, there is this kind of manual. And I have all the gas masks used in the this is from 1989, so back then they don't mention discarded things, but for example, M10, all about it, PRVU is also mentioned, and stuff like that. So I can say for sure, also when it comes to civil defense, when we talk about filters and what they're made of, I can tell for sure because I have the documents.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, ours, as far as I've read from them, Romanian books and booklets and leaflets about gas mask and civil defense are not very detailed. And most of the time, especially the pictures in them, the drawings, are basically copy-paste from the Soviet one.
Yes.
And there is not that much detail. Like, for example, for the head wound gas mask, which is extremely rare and not that many people know about it, the Polish and the Soviet one are much more common, especially between collectors. But the Romanian one, at the moment, I believe I'm the only one holding it. But anyway, in the manual, it is called only head wound gas mask, nothing more or less. Like there is no designation at all, or numbers, or year of production, or something.
Can you show it to me?
Yes, wait a second.
I think I know what you're talking about.
This one.
Oh yeah, that's it. This one doesn't have harness, just around the neck.
Yeah, something like that. It's very similar to the Soviet one, but the Soviet one would have an integrated hose. This one doesn't have. Also, this cover is quite different, and it has only one stamp that I could find on it. I don't think you can see it. M68, which it's very close to the type of stamps used by the Soviets. Like on a Soviet gas mask, that would be Moscow 1968, but it's missing other stamps used by the Soviets to make me believe this is a face piece made in the Soviet Union, exported to Romania, and Romania just added some parts to it. Because that's how we did with some of our cars made in here. We just imported 90% finalized Renault cars, and we finished it in Romania, and we would say that they were Romanian.
Good old times, huh?
Yeah.
But you know what's funny about production of gas masks used in here? There are all these masks we were talking about. They were made in Czechoslovakia, the Czechoslovak ones, But there are two exceptions, and it's PRVU, the one I showed you for rocket refueling teams, That's a Soviet one, just like this one. And both of these masks are explained in the army manual of Czech army from 2006.
Wow.
These two masks were never back. I don't know what was the situation now. They were never replaced because there is no replacement. Show me another mask for gas refilling, and show me another mask for a head wound or for wounded people. I don't even know how to use that mask. And when it comes to putting on a gas mask to a wounded person, nobody teaches you that. I've never seen such information. I really have to cooperate with emergency, with first responders, just in order to create some methodics, some ways what to teach people the right way, because there is no information at all.
I think it was something like more experimental, because like they would create anything for everyone, like people that would have head wounds or horse gas masks and so on. But in case of the worst scenarios, I think a lot of normal functioning people would die. What about like fucking horses or paralyzed people? They were probably 100% casualties.
You know, there are no needs for horse gas masks nowadays because people don't rely on them that much as they did in the First or Second World War still. So that's the thing of that period. And when it comes to head wounds, I don't even know if it was about head wound, because when your neck is broken, for example, still the same problem. When I'm gonna, for example, if you're wounded and you're choking on something and I wanna put on you a CM4, for example, I have to put your head in between my knees, for example. I have to move with you. I have to move with your neck, with your head, in order to put it on. So, but the other thing is, we can just talk about for hours when it comes to priorities, because every emergency priority, because there are steps you have to follow as a first responder. When you work in, there are things. First is stop bleeding and stop stuff. But when it comes to CBRN agents, for example, when it comes to nerve agents, you can everything goes to the side. Every other possible thing has to go to a side because you're gonna die anyway.
Yeah.
So because these people love to talk about priorities and getting the thing done by the book, and reality is different. Nothing is by the book.
A lot of people would die just from the panic. Like they would crowd like hell. And for example, I was reading, I have somewhere behind me a thing extremely rare that I was very lucky to find, because we were talking about horse gas masks. They were still used in the Cold War, at least by some of the communist countries. We had ours, a copy of the Soviet ones, but I managed to find a horse decontamination kit. And
how did that work?
Yeah, it's kind of cute because it comes in it's basically the M74 gas mask bag, but shorter, much shorter. And I've read the instructions. It's basically like a human decontamination kit, but with bigger stuff, with a bigger quantity of the liquids and so on. And there was a part on the instructions that I was like, wow. You had to use something like what is it called? The tip of the syringe, the metal part. How is it called? The needle. The needle.
Needle.
You would have to use a needle from the decontamination kit, and they are quite huge. I mean, they are this long, something like that. They are quite thick. Or if you didn't have a needle, you would have to use an unrusted nail or something like that. Put the substance on it, on the nail or on the needle, and put it here for the horses, like inside near the eye. who the fuck would do that? Like, who the fuck would do that? Like, you'd be panicking yourself after the explosion or after the gas attack, and
that's why people were meant to train for these situations.
yeah. But wait a second. But what about the horse? Do you think that horse will be calm? Like that horse would thank you if you'd shot him after a chemical attack or a nuclear explosion, you know? Like, I don't know, people were preparing for these things, but if the worst scenario would have come, I don't think a lot of things would apply. Like, for example,
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
the one with horses, or God knows.
Well, this is pretty crazy. Yes, as I'm thinking of it, because I was thinking about something similar, not in such an bizarre extreme, but this is more real. You can imagine yourself in this situation after the chemical attack, putting a gas mask on children. They're also not very reasonable and willing to do so.
Yeah.
How are you gonna do that? Are you gonna ask nicely, or are you gonna use force? How would that go with the modern parenting?
Yeah.
So these kind of things.
And I think most of the things, gas mask, decontamination kits, so on and so forth, I think they would work the best in case of accidents, like nuclear accident, chemical accident. I think that's manageable, but in case of war with unconventional weapons, I think everybody would lose its mind.
Sure, but unconventional weapons. You know how it is. Things always start with ideals, and people are too idealistic and naive.
Yeah.
But when you look at what happened in reality, for example, during World War One, that's the finest example, because everyone was heading towards war. They had in their heads that they're gonna be home for Christmas. Everyone was going to be winner. No, I'm sorry, guys. Someone was about to lose, and well, it was everybody. So they got stuck in trenches in the West Front, and look, where did the ideals go? Because suddenly they started to use stuff they dreamt about. And when you take a look at the Second World War, when people are desperate and in need, when there are scarcity, everything fades away, and we just become what we truly are, just animals trying to survive, doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, do you have? I mean, I know you said you are not very passionate about World War One or World War Two, but
actually, I'm very passionate about World War One because it was so brutal and meaningless that I just love it.
Yeah, I believe Second World War was more brutal towards civilians, if you ask me, compared to the First World War. I am asking you because I managed to get a book from the 30s, something like for the civilian defense here in Romania from the 30s. It's in a very good condition, and it's interesting because it shows a lot of gas masks from around the world, and it's funny how they changed these things, but not that much. Just adding a new weapon, like in the 30s was chemical warfare, and not that much was chemical warfare, but also bombardment, like planes coming and bombarding cities with conventional ammunition. But then, boom, 20 years later, in the 40s and 50s, we added the atomic bomb, and everything changed. Like, I literally read in one of these books how nuclear bombs are made. I don't know why I need to know this in a civil defense book, but I just find it very interesting how this nuclear technology changed everything.
Yeah, oh yes, it did. And also when you speak of chemical weapons, it also differs from age to age, let's say they were using different stuff in 1918. Then in the 30s, there were nerve agents, the first generation invented. And you mentioned the atomic bomb. And how does it work? Yes, also in one army book, I had a very nice explanation of how the system actually works, how primitive it is in its basis.
Yeah.
So it's good to understand that. But yeah, okay, I wanted to say something I forgot, so let's just move on.
No problem. Unfortunately, here it's getting quite late. It's like 10. And
yeah. 2 hours already.
Yeah, I was expecting to take at least 2 hours. Imagine if you would have also added the military ones. For Romania wouldn't be that long, because as I told you, we still use the M74 for everything. And the newer versions of it didn't add that much useful stuff, but not that much. And the newer was the improvement for the M74, the rarer the mask are. The latest variant, it's like I discovered a few more lately and sold them, M85F, and I find it amazing because I believe to this point that it is the only Warsaw packed gas mask that has a VPU. If
VPU
is I forgot, it's a shortened way to say it, but it basically amplifies your voice. Like
I see. Yeah.
Nowadays they are quite small, they attach to your mask, but for the M85F you have a cable that connects like the drinking tube to your gas mask. You have a microphone inside, and this one I cannot show you right now because it's quite complicated to take it out. The amplifier is like a mobile phone, something like that. It was made only for officers and higher ranks, and you would attach it. I'm not sure if it's here or on your belt, but it's very loud. And because it's quite old technology from the 80s, it's very common to interfere with radio stations.
Okay.
Yeah. Like when I was starting it for a few seconds or even more, if I wouldn't move its position, it would catch radio frequencies. Yeah.
These amplifiers, they sound good. I was checking out these Avon gas mask C50 or something, high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
And this had it. I don't know about these masks, about these newer generations. The newest thing I have is the Scott M95, which was also made. Okay, it's still labeled as from 95, but they're still making the same mask because there is nothing to upgrade, basically. It's just good gas mask.
As far as I've seen from other collectors and I think I've seen some videos on YouTube, yeah, these amplifiers are quite good quality, and it's a huge difference between using one or only using the voice diaphragm.
See,
a big improvement. Quite loud, quite clear. They are worth it. I had an occasion to buy, but only the VPU part that you attach to your mask for the American M40, I believe. The dude was asking me for like $50 for it.
That's a lot of.
It's, in my opinion, I mean, the VPU was $50, and I paid for the mask here in Romania, and I was quite lucky to find it around $70, $80. So
for that money, you can get a new modern gas mask.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to get because I want to get the CM6 and the OM90, and basically my Czechoslovakian collection would be complete, mostly.
You don't have OM90?
No. I mean, here in Romania it's impossible to find them, but it's not a common thing. And
we'll work something out because I know places, and it depends on what state you want it. it to be in, because we can have it minty mint and we can have it used, and
I'm okay with used. I mean, I don't use them, but
it's just like 15-20 euros max.
That's a decent price in my opinion. And I want it for another reason is that Romania uses it as well, at least for the decontamination units, or CBRN units. Sorry, I've seen some training photos with them used by the Romanian army, and I find it very interesting and to try it out.
Yeah, we'll talk about these gas masks in another episode.
Yeah,
it
definitely.
has some advantages, but disadvantages in my case outweigh the positives.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think this was it for today. We will see another podcast probably in a month. I believe so. On another
Yeah,
podcast.
sure. On a monthly basis, it's actually perfect. In between, we're gonna post our own different content. So
yeah, maybe I'll get the time to finish a video that I keep planning it for like a year, I believe so. It's not even that complicated. I just don't have the time to make it and edit it, you know. But maybe I'll figure it out.
I still didn't edit the first podcast we've had together because I was never really in a mood looking at myself and listening to myself for an hour, and this is gonna be even worse. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, nice to have you, man. Have a great day.
And you too, man. So
yeah.
See you in the next podcast. Bye.
Bye.